This is going to blow your mind. Picture this: New York City, a symbol of American success, enveloped in darkness. The famous skyline, typically a brilliant showcase of electric ambition, is now reduced to the dim glow of emergency generators. Millions are forced to cope with the sudden loss of something they usually take for granted: electricity. This isn't the plot of a dystopian novel, but a very real threat looming over the United States. The cause? A trade conflict with their northern neighbors, ignited by tariffs and fueled by retaliatory measures. This alarming scenario is the potential fallout of a rapidly intensifying trade dispute between the United States and Canada. What started as an effort to shield American industries has escalated into a high-stakes confrontation with potentially disastrous outcomes. At the core of this crisis lies a resource more precious than gold in the 21st century: energy. Energy, the lifeblood of modern society, powers everything from our homes to our hospitals, our schools to our skyscrapers. Without it, the very fabric of society begins to fall apart. The trade war has disrupted the supply of this essential resource, leading to blackouts and energy shortages. The impact is felt not just in the dimming lights of New York City, but across the entire nation. Factories come to a standstill, hospitals struggle to keep life-saving equipment operational, and daily life is thrown into disarray. The stakes couldn't be higher. As the conflict drags on, the question remains: how long can a nation endure in the dark? The answer may shape the future of American prosperity and security. In late 2024, President Trump, in a move that caught many off guard, imposed a significant 25% tariff on all Canadian imports. This broad measure, designed to support domestic industries and decrease dependence on foreign goods, had swift and extensive repercussions. Although the tariffs affected a variety of products, from lumber to cars, their effect on the energy sector was particularly dramatic. Canada, a long-standing dependable trading partner and energy provider to the United States, was quick to react. The Canadian government, under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, denounced the tariffs as unjust and detrimental to both nations' economies. However, it was the vehement response from Ontario Premier Doug Ford that reverberated through the corridors of power in Washington. Ontario, the most populous province in Canada and a significant energy hub, holds a pivotal position in the North American energy framework. It provides a substantial share of the electricity used in several northern U.S. states, such as New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. This international energy exchange is essential for ensuring the stability and reliability of the power grid in these areas. Premier Ford, infuriated by the tariffs and their potential repercussions on Ontario's economy, issued a stern warning, a warning that echoed on both sides of the border. If the tariffs were not withdrawn, Ontario would halt electricity exports to the United States. This ultimatum was not merely a political tactic, but a serious threat with extensive implications. This threat, far from being an idle threat, sent shivers down the spines of economists and energy specialists. The potential disruption to the energy supply chain was a significant cause for concern. Experts predict that a complete cessation of Canadian electricity exports could result in a staggering $3.6 trillion hit to the U.S. economy. The financial markets reacted quickly, with stock prices plummeting and investor confidence shaken. The impact would be widespread, from darkened homes and businesses, leaving millions without power and disrupting daily life, to paralyzed factories and skyrocketing energy prices. The economic ripple effect would be devastating, affecting industries and consumers alike, and underscoring the interconnected nature of our energy systems. The trade conflict between the United States and Canada has captured global attention. Initially sparked by tariffs on steel and aluminum, this dispute has rapidly expanded into a wider economic clash. Both countries have enacted a series of retaliatory tariffs, impacting a broad spectrum of goods and services. China, already entangled in its own trade war with the U.S., declared its support for Canada and threatened its own retaliatory actions. Beijing's involvement adds another layer of complexity as it aims to use the dispute to its advantage in ongoing negotiations with Washington. The European Union, long cautious of President Trump's protectionist stance, voiced significant concern over the rising trade tensions. European leaders have called for immediate diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation, warning that prolonged conflict could have dire consequences for the global economy. the scenario is shaping up to be a full-scale global trade war, with each side imposing tariffs and trade barriers in a tit-for-tat escalation that could severely damage the global economy. Experts caution that such a situation could lead to a notable slowdown in international trade, impacting businesses and consumers worldwide. The interconnected nature of global supply chains means disruptions in one region can have far-reaching effects. Companies dependent on international suppliers may encounter unforeseen challenges, resulting in production delays and increased costs. Sectors from manufacturing to technology to agriculture could experience shortages, delays, and rising costs. The agricultural industry in particular could be severely impacted, with farmers struggling to export their products and facing higher prices for imported goods. The repercussions of this trade war could be felt for years to come. The potential economic repercussions from an energy conflict with Canada are enormous. Industries throughout the United States are significantly dependent on Canadian electricity to fuel their operations. Manufacturing facilities, especially those in the energy-intensive automotive and steel industries, might have to reduce production or shut down completely, resulting in job losses and economic difficulties. The technology sector, a key driver of the American economy, also relies heavily on a steady supply of electricity. Data centers, which support everything from cloud computing to online services, need vast amounts of energy to function. An extended power outage could interrupt internet services, financial transactions, and numerous other facets of modern life. Section 6. The high cost of darkness, spiking energy prices. For average Americans, the most direct and noticeable impact of an energy crisis would be surging electricity costs. With supply drastically limited, the price of electricity would inevitably skyrocket, placing a significant strain on households, particularly those on fixed incomes or already facing financial difficulties. The ripple effects of increased electricity prices would be felt across the entire economy. Businesses would encounter higher operational expenses, potentially leading to increased prices for consumers. The cost of transportation, already affected by rising fuel prices, could climb further as the expense of electricity used to power electric vehicles and public transit systems increases. Section 7. Scrambling for solutions. America's contingency plan. Confronted with the looming threat of an energy shortage, the U.S. administration has been urgently devising backup strategies. One measure under consideration is utilizing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a substantial emergency stockpile of crude oil maintained by the government. Nevertheless, this would only serve as a short-term fix and wouldn't fully resolve the electricity generation issue. Additional strategies being considered include speeding up the development of renewable energy projects, such as solar and wind power, and negotiating temporary energy agreements with other nations. However, these measures would require time to implement and might not be adequate to compensate for the immediate loss of Canadian electricity. Section 8. A race against time, averting a global energy crisis. The situation is critical, but not beyond resolution. The solution to preventing a severe energy crisis lies in achieving a rapid and diplomatic settlement to the trade conflict. Both parties must be prepared to come to the negotiating table and reach a consensus. The alternative is a prolonged deadlock with potentially disastrous consequences for both nations and the global economy. The stakes are extraordinarily high. The world is watching, and the decisions made in the coming days and weeks will have significant and enduring consequences. The future of the U.S. Canada relationship, the stability of the global economy, and the well-being of millions of people depend on finding a peaceful and mutually advantageous resolution. Section 9. The path forward. Cooperation or catastrophe. The future is evident. Collaboration, not conflict. The United States and Canada must acknowledge their mutual interests and collaborate to find a mutually beneficial solution. This will necessitate compromise and a readiness to set aside political differences for the greater good. The alternative is a spiral into a trade war with no victors. Such a conflict would only damage both economies, disrupt global trade, and create discord among nations. The world has already seen the devastating effects of protectionism and isolationism. We must choose a different route, one built on cooperation, understanding, and a shared commitment to creating a more prosperous and interconnected world.